Discovering deliciousness. We are going to take you on an exciting journey of education. So let's get cracking. All right. So this is a new kind of program that we are going to be showcasing to you guys. The idea is that we're going to be getting a whole bunch of contributors and different types of people from around the world to showcase you their insights, their knowledge, their passion, their excitement about different types of ingredients and different types of methods as well. So we're just totally leveling up so that we can make sure that you guys can also level up as well. So in your first module, or one of the modules, will be listo. This is where we're going to be taking the humble ingredient of the garnish, okay? We're going to just show you how to elevate it, how to make it a little bit more exciting so that you can take your consumer and your customers on a complete whirlwind of a journey. Then with mastering the elements, this is where we unlock the flavor. The whole idea here is that we're going to creatively show you how to take just a simple thing like an orange and create different ways of making an ingredient. Then in this session, it will be about discovering deliciousness. This is where we're going to be building the ingredient encyclopedia. It's all about culinary culture, cocktails, and the spirit of PATRÓN's extraordinary home, which will be Mexico. And this will be before we introduce the brand new encyclopedia of ingredients. Okay, so since 2015, the place to showcase new cocktail tequila classics, all right, has been the PATRÓN Perfectionist competition. All it took was a single recipe that you guys make, that the bartenders then put through there as their initial entry, and this is going to be then hosted at a spectacular final. So hopefully one of you guys will be making it through, and you will be able to showcase your tequila classic at the home of PATRÓN, which is the Hacienda in Jalisco in Mexico. With a global interest on Mexican cuisine, this is definitely just more than a cocktail competition. It is something to awaken the senses. All right. PATRÓN Perfectionists. Every challenge will be hard, no doubt about that. But the idea here is that you're going to be creating a brilliant drink. You're going to go on to create an amazing experience for not just for you and not just for your bartender like friends, but for your consumers as well. And here, this is why we're making these platforms, is so that you guys will be supported in every single step of the way via these platforms. All right, here I am. This is me, Roxanne Rock. I'm a brand ambassador for Bacardi South Africa. I've been in the industry for about 10 years, maybe 12, who really knows anymore. I have spent spent time on both sides of the bar, being a bartender, being a waiter, as well as a events person. I went overseas for a little bit, living in Oman, came back, wanted to learn about wine, so I came and worked in the wine industry, and now I get to do my dream job, really, and that is to educate bartenders, and hopefully one day I will be able to do it around the world as well. So that's me, and let's get cracking. So today's session is discovering deliciousness, all right? Mexico is constantly measured as one of the most biodiverse countries on earth. It's very blessed with an array of, a large amount of plants and, different types of herbs and spices and fruits and vegetables. And a lot of the time, these never really get to leave their home state. So you get to hear about all these ingredients when you go there, but you never really get to see them when you leave. All right. The diversity of the ingredients is also matched by the amazing ways that the Mexican cooks have utilized these ingredients over the last 5,000 years. And we get now to see that there is a very rich culture when it comes to the culinary space that is out there. So while we have got all of these amazing brands and, well, not brands, products, okay, and ingredients that we have at our disposal from Mexico, there's libraries worth of this stuff, okay, and information and everything like that. It's all very hard to navigate when you are curious because you don't know where to start, and sometimes you can go down a rabbit hole, okay. Mexico has got a very vast pantry of natural ingredients, and at PATRÓN we believe that there we've barely scratched the tip of the iceberg. Okay, so the idea here with you guys in mind is that we want to create the first ever Mexican ingredient encyclopedia. Okay, this is written specifically for you guys in mind because ideally we want to help you guys find the perfect ingredient for the perfect drink. All right, so we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along in the session today. So down to our contributors. So one of our first contributors is Mexico's most enthusiastic cultural ambassador. Her name is Ana Martorell. She also happens to be one of the most talented chefs, which I think is super great. She's got a couple of restaurants, one of them being Ada, and the other one who's newly opened is called Oxa in Mexico City. She focuses her passion for the traditions of Mexican culinary culture, but she takes a very contemporary look at the way that they cook their food. Okay, she's had a couple of international projects as far as Spain and Qatar, and she has introduced the countries, and she's got a way of introducing the country's unique attitude to food to new audiences. This is now Mexico, right? So she's a published author since 2020. She's got a deep knowledge and she's got a very big generosity when it comes to sharing that information. So we welcome her to the Academia PATRÓN Perfectionists, which I think is great. Then our next contributor is one of the most well-traveled and multi-skilled humans that you'll ever come to meet in the drinks world. He is now PATRÓN's US Programming and Event Specialist. His name is Roberto Nunez Moreno, and his incredibly long story comes from it starts off in his birthplace of Jalisco, and initially when he first gained his taste for hospitality, it was because his family used to own restaurants, so he used to work with them, and then he began training as a Catholic priest, and his studies took him to places like Spain and Germany and Italy, just all in pursuit of his master's degree in philosophy. And when he came back to Mexico, he did a short little stint in insurance. The hospitality industry always calls you back. So he had a little time in the insurance industry, and then he went back to the United States. He reconnected with hospitality, of course, and now he is part of the Boston bar scene. So he went from Bussa to GM, which I think is cool. And then before he caught the patron's eye, and now he did an incredible performance at 2021's PATRÓN Perfectionist. So these are our two contributors for today. They're going to be talking us through some really cool insights as well. All right, so Mexico. Let's have a little deep dive. All right. So Mexican ingredients and why are they so special, really? So for Roberto, he says it all starts with the land itself. He says that it's like lucky geography in essence. All right. You've got arid deserts. You've got in the north, as you can see up there in the north. A Chihuahuan desert, okay, and then you've got the spectacular ice-capped mountains in center. You've got a lush, humid jungle to the left there, and then you've got the southern state of Chiapas, which is very varied, as you can see. So you've got also coastal as well. So it's all about the climate, obviously. It's very extreme. Because of the altitude, the different weather systems blown in from the Pacific Ocean, and also from the west, which is the Gulf of Mexico. Well, Gulf of Mexico to the east. Sorry, my geography is not great sometimes. So it kind of can feel like a little bit, as you can say, Mexico can feel like a dozen different countries in one, which I think it's great for the adventurer's heart, So the variety of conditions that are in Mexico has naturally led to a variety of types of flora and fauna, and they're all very much thriving in Mexico. Mexico is classified by Conservation International as one of the only 17 mega-diverse countries on the planet. These countries only cover about 10% of the world's surface, and they are home to about 70% of the planet's biodiversity, which which is very incredible, very extraordinary, very nice little proud moment that Mexico can have there as well, being part of that. So in 2002, Mexico was one of the founding members of the Like-Minded Mega Diverse Countries. It's an organization that promotes cooperation and the sharing of traditional knowledge between the other rare and extraordinary places. Okay, so on the topic of traditional knowledge, okay, so let's talk about Chef Anna. So she has a couple of words to say about how Mexico's internal rivalries are at play when it comes to food and ingredients and how they're concerned and everything like that. So as you can see there, as you travel from state to state, each of them will swear that they're the only ones in Mexico that know how to cook. There's not a nice way to put it. If you think you've tasted mole, let me tell you, you haven't tasted mole, because there are over 100 different types. So as she's saying that there's just super diverse, there's 150 different types of chili, there's so many different dialects. It's a really wild and wonderful place, definitely. All right, so let's take a little look at mole, because maybe you want to put it in a cocktail. You never know. All right. So let's talk about mole and what it tells us about the different Mexican attitudes, traditions, and tastes. Okay. If you've never heard the word before of mole, the idea is that it's a family of sauces. Okay, so that's the word that it means. So it's this family of sauces and marinades, and then they're prepared across different types of kitchens all across Mexico. As Anna's quote previously shows, it's quite an extended family. So it's almost like limitless in its way, that it can be created, it can be influenced by different types of regions and even how you've been taught how to make mole as well. And also it takes a very, very long time to be made. All right. So it doesn't matter what type of variety you are making, it's very time consuming as well. Okay. So let's talk about mole cajetes. Anna has explained here that she once had the opportunity to go to Puebla, where they make mole cajetes. These are stone grinders, as you can see in the image, and they are used to pulverize spices and chilies. So it's almost like like a pestle and mortar. She met some guys who were carving basalt out of the mountainside by hand. Some of those stones took 3 hours to carefully extract so they didn't break. After they finished, they loaded them up onto the back of the truck, drove another 2 hours down the mountain to the workshop, where they were hammered into shape, and then the next morning the product of their whole day's work was in the marketplace for less than $10 US. So it's a traditional volcanic stone tool that is used for grinding dried and fresh produce. All right, so let's give you a little bit of an insight into how wild the mole culture is. Well, I wouldn't say wild, but like how vast it is and diverse. So just to give you a different array here, we're going to just have a little look at one state, which is Oaxaca. And that's obviously famous for its seemingly endless styles. Their recipes work as brilliant primers for how Mexican cooks build complexity. That's mole. So who knows, maybe you can, like I said before, maybe you can adapt it to work into a cocktail, hey? Different little combinations. So mole negro, as you can see on the top in the middle, it's called the black mole. This is a style you might recognize, as it's a little bit more common in the Mexican style restaurants in the United States of America or Europe. It's a little bit more traditional craft. It's hugely intricate, multi-stage process, and it has dozens of elements. It's definitely very interesting. The key ingredients that stand out here is the devilish, rich, dried chilies and bitter dark chocolate flavor. So with all of these, you can see how they've all got different sort of flavor profiles that have different, that come through it a little bit differently. So it's not just one ingredient, barbecue sauce is just barbecue sauce, whereas mole is different. It's got different sort of variants and different sort of flavors. With the green one, you can see it's a little bit more bright, a little bit more refreshing. It's got that parsley, coriander, and Jorge's Santa. And then if you go down to the bottom, which is the yellow mole, it's a little bit more aromatic and a little bit woody in spices. So like things cinnamon and yellow chilies, that kind of stuff. So you can see it's got quite a vast variety. All right, there's obviously some hidden gems out here. And I hope that one day you guys get to try some of them. So the barrow, this is now before we leave the kitchen. We've obviously got to still talk about kitchen things, okay, because we're learning about Mexican culture here. So the barrow, Anna wanted you to know about the barrow a little bit more. She said it was a very essential piece of equipment in the Mexican kitchen. It's an unglazed clay pot that's sometimes used when cooking soups or stews. So this barrow definitely demonstrates not only how deep the Mexicans care, but how they think about the flavor. In her quote here, it says, "It's very simple. We put the barrow itself on an open fire, but the effect is amazing. It adds so much earthiness, truly, the flavor of the earth. It keeps so much moisture, meaning what you've cooked is unbelievably soft and tender. And the barrow isn't an ingredient, but it gives so much that it should be an ingredient." So that's something to also think about when you're making your drinks as well, like what you're using to create your cocktail. So, but that's a bit later. Okay. And as a bartender, obviously you can understand how you can create this in your own way. Like think like a barrow roasted pineapple. I mean, how delightful does that sound? I mean, gung ho. Give me a cocktail from that. All right, so let's talk about what it's got to do with tequila. Let's move on to how the bartender, how it affects you guys as bartenders. Okay. So Licoreria, Lemon Tour, and Hanky Panky have led Mexico City's flourishing cocktail scene. Okay. Meanwhile, you've got different places in Mexico as well: Playa del Carmen, Zapote Bar, Oaxaca City's Salva, and Guadalajara's Matilda. These have all garnered global attention. Mexico's never been a better place to try a cocktail. Definitely can 100% agree. But how do the country's best bartenders strive, now this is Mexico, to bring a true taste of Mexico to their guests? And this is why we're going through all of these programs in these portals, so that we can show you how the incredible ingredients they have, like that you can get on your doorstep, can actually change the cocktail and the ingredients. So Chef Anna, one of our contributors, she's got a beautiful quote. This is what she says: "In a place like Licoreria Lemon Tour, there are slight differences from bartender to bartender because they feel they can express themselves. It's always different, but it's always perfect. For example, I love drinking gin and tonics, but one of the worst I ever had was in the home of gin in London. As a Mexican, it just felt too plain, too simple. In Mexico, we have an expression: we drink like flowers, but we also like flowers in our drinks. Fruits too, anything to make it more complex and to put it on a show for a guest," which I think is so sweet. So, as you can see here, we've got a Patron and tonic. It's a very nice, classic, simple drink. I'm just going to move my face out the way. I don't know if you guys can see that. Very much, as you can see here. So, we're now going into how Chef Anna would make her drink, kind of a thing. So, she very much has a strong preference for proudly Mexican approach to mixology. Okay, so they got her to show us what she meant. So as you can see here, she is giving us this classic recipe of Patron and tonic. It's a very easy, simple drink that is elevated. Okay, so it's a big twist. Anna has used her experiences as a chef to create different ingredients from Mexico. Which is called, the Mexican dish is called taco al pastor. That's why it's called Patron and tonic al pastor. Traditionally a dish of marinated pork served with spiced pineapple. Anna's cocktail is served on ice cubes made from frozen pineapple juice and coriander leaves. The drink's aromatics are added through a paint on the inside of the glass. So you take a paintbrush inside of the glass, and this is made from coriander seed and achiote, a bright red spice with a mild peppery flavor. Patron Silver and chili tonic are carefully added before being crowned with pieces of freshly toasted tortilla and grilled pineapple. And how's that now? Hey, that sounds delicious. So Anna's sharing her love for those bars and also for Mexican ingredients as well. So Anna showed us one of her amazing ingredients and amazing cocktails. So let's have a little look at what Roberta has got to show us. All right. So there is a place called El Habanero Negro, a small restaurant in Guadalajara, and it was inspired by the Yucatan. They offer a cocktail that's like nothing else in the world called a Chejueno. Locally, we use a slang word for beer, chela, but the second part of the name comes from the Tajino, a really ancient drink made long before the Spanish arrived. It's made from ground corn masa and molasses and naturally fermented to about 2% ABV. They just mix the beer and the Tijuana together and serve with a salt rim and a lime wheel. It's these kinds of drinks that give people an epiphany. They'd say, whoa, this is Mexico. So that's Roberta's twist and take on a classic Mexican drink. All right, the ultimate Mexican ingredient, agave. They are different types of agave, as we know, but there can only be one, the Weber Blue agave. This is the only one that can be used to make tequila. Understanding the plant and how and where it grows and how it is harvested is essential in understanding the tequila production. So we're going to take a little look at the ultimate Mexican ingredient, which is the agave plants, and the steps that PATRÓN takes in order to make our beautiful tequila. So at PATRÓN, we ensure that we lay our hands on the best agave plants for our tequila by investing in partnerships with local agave growing families. These are all from the highlands of Jalisco, and they set a fixed minimum price for the crop because what happens is this forms like long-term standing contracts, and which means that the families then have a little bit more security. They're a little bit more protected from like the sudden downswings in pricing that are common because agave market can be quite volatile. These relationships of trust are what ensures PATRÓN to get the really like true and, we've got the mature, perfect agave plants. They're a little bit more mature. They've got high quality, and then also when the region is a little bit on the scarce side, we can be guaranteed to get the good stuff. So the agave cycle. This is commonly mistaken as a cactus. Here in South Africa, we've also got quite a range of agave style plants. Which is really incredible. So it's cool to see that even here in South Africa, we're also bound by the agave plant, but it's not the blue Weber one, of course. So as I said previously, it's commonly mistaken as a cactus. The agave is a member of the Asparagiaceae family, and it's also related to, which is essentially related to the asparagus. The Weber Blue variety that we must, by law, use to produce tequila became the ingredient, became the dominant variety in Jalisco because of its resistance to like disease and the speed of maturity. It still takes a long time to get there, which means, and by maturity we mean like the peak sugar content. So when it's at its peak sugar content, that's when we are wanting to harvest it. It takes about 5 to 7 years for the agave plant to get to this level, and as the agave plant reaches this stage, it sprouts a mighty scape. And as you can see here, this long piece, it looks almost like a flower. That is the scape. Okay, this is called the quiote from its center, and if it's left to grow, it would eventually produce flowers and then seed pods. And I don't know how many of you guys grow veggies at home, but the moment that happens, like specifically for lettuce, it turns the plant bitter as well. So not ideal. Not ideal. Tequila producers will then cut that scape down, and the idea is that it allows the plant then to concentrate its energy back into to creating the sugars and for the like little heart of it, which is the pina. So that's when it it's like pulling yourself towards yourself, you know? So it cuts off the scape so that it concentrates more on producing the heart, which is essentially what we want. This is what we'll go now to, what we harvest, and then we cook it, we mill it, and we ferment it, and then distill it as well. We're going to go through that process just a little bit later in our Mastering the Elements section. All right. Then we want the crisp fruitiness and soulful earthiness of agave's flavors to burst from every drop of Patron. So we want you to be able to like drink it neat or mix it in a cocktail. That's why we don't use additives, and we don't use any weird and wonderful things to cover up any of its flavor profiles, because we want you to have that natural character and the flavor and the texture of any of the expressions. So it might also surprise you that legally you are allowed to use up to 1% of the total final volume of a bottle of tequila to be made up of one of these additives, whether it's caramel coloring or oak extract which we use, is used then to artificially give the impression of aging in matured products. Glycerin then gives you more of like that mouthfeel and the softness, and then or jarabe, which would be then to give you the sweetness, and this is like more like cake batter, kind of like sweetness. Okay, so that kind of aroma. It's very widespread in the tequila industry to be using additives, but Patron is proud to be one of the only small group of tequila producers that don't actually use any additives, or because we're proud of that additive-free blending process. That's our story. So let's do some tasting, okay? If you do have the opportunity now, I would highly recommend you pouring yourself a little bit of each of these. So the idea here is that you're going to have just a little bit to taste. Never stick your face straight into the glass. I always say that, you want to warm up your nostrils a little bit, so make it nice and slow. Move it side to side, and as you're moving it closer to your face, you can start to pick up the flavors and the aromas a little bit better. So have a little smell, have a little taste, really digest what you're picking up, and we will then move on. This is the good time to pause so you can really enjoy it, and then we will continue after you unpause and start again. All right, did you get to taste all of those wonderful liquids? I hope you enjoyed the Patron Silver. It's got a very nice light, crisp sort of taste to it. Reposado. It's very, you're starting to get a little bit more, caramel notes and stuff. And then with the añejo as well. Here we've got some tasting notes. So maybe you guys picked some of these flavors up, which I think is really incredible as well. So as you can see, Patron Silver is unaged. This is generally sitting at 80 proof. It's very bright and crisp, very, as I was saying, light, very citrusy sort of flavor profile. And then with your taste, you'll obviously, again, pick up things like honeydew, lemongrass, and a little bit of citrus peel as well. With the reposado means rested. So we rested in a couple of barrels. We use about 5 barrels in our aging, different types as well. And this is rested for about 3 to 5 months. Again, 80 proof. It's a little bit on the aroma. You've got fruit forward, like stewy, so kind of like a smell. Again, tequila, the agave smell as well. Again, also with your vanilla, because that's that slight little bit from the barrel. And then with the taste, it's light and softly sweet. And you'll probably get a little bit of banana on there, a little bit of vanilla because of the barrel. And then Patron Añejo, aged tequila. This is around 12 to 15 months. This is also 80 proof. A lot more warmer, richer, nice, like stone fruit, like think Christmas cake when you think marzipan. And so again, with a fruitcake spice, a little bit, maybe even a little bit of tobacco if you get that. That's incredible. And then you get that soft, rich, kind of taste on the profile, like toffee, caramel, a little bit of like nice burnt orange sort of flavor profile as well. All right. Let me know if you're loving it. I mean, I love PATRÓN. I think it's an exceptional brand. So great stories as well. All right, so let's move on. You can, if you've still got tasters, you can sip along while we go through this. All right. Now, I don't know if you guys are thinking this, but I mean, think about the mole, think about the barrow, think about, how vastly and widely different parts of Mexico are. So I think that you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get the right ingredient for my cocktail, but fear not. I think that you definitely will. And so Mexican chefs and Mexican bartenders have definitely also got incredible stuff on their doorstep, but so have you, wherever you are based in the world. With such a vast spectrum of flavors, many of you will obviously then start to see like also a limitless possibility. So the options are endless, okay? It's also understandable that you might also feel a little bit overwhelmed, but again, like I said, there's maybe a simple PATRÓN and tonic variation twist that you would like to maybe make as well. Okay, so sometimes you don't know where to start. Fear not, we've got you covered. We have got the ingredient encyclopedia, the Mexico edition. The idea here is that it's a creation through different creations of encyclopedias. We have, as humans, have found different ways to record, categorize, and share information, right? So this is all about the world around us. As we go through like different life cycles, we now enter into the modern era of the encyclopedia. We really see like a single author in this, okay? They function as more of like a hive mind, these encyclopedias. So the vast scale of the information gathering networks helps keep all of this information alive, okay? And that's essentially what we are looking for when we're looking at an encyclopedia. So the PATRÓN Ingredient Encyclopedia is going to be a collaboration between leading chefs and bartenders around the world, and these will all bring the very best of nature's bounty to your fingertips. So you can browse and peruse it at any time that you want, okay? So let's look at the timeline of encyclopedias. Definitely very interesting. So we've got the early 2nd millennium BC, which is the Ura Hubulu. Okay, that's the first one there on the top left. You've got, it's the very first historical text. It resembles an encyclopedia. It was created in modern day Syria. So what we call Syria to this day. It was made up of about 24 carved stone tablets, and it consisted of a list of naval and terrestrial vehicles and the Babylonian names for various plants and rock varieties. So quite a good standpoint for the first encyclopedia. Parts of it can also still be seen at the Louvre in Paris. So if you ever get to go to Paris, you can go and pop in at the Louvre and go and have a little look here. Then you can see as we move on to 116 BC, these are the 9 books of disciplines by Marcus Terentius Varro, assembled by one of the Roman Empire's most celebrated scholars. That's him, obviously. This is the first known text to contain an index, organizing its entries into 9 different principles like grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, musical theory, medicine, and architecture. So it's got a nice little index for you. This was one of those first ones. And then we go to 77, 79 AD. This is natural history by Pliny the Elder. He worked on the works of his compatriot Varro, the guy before, Marcus. Pliny the Elder expanded its scale, the first one, to about 20,000 entries of his encyclopedia. Okay. Sadly, Pliny didn't get to bask in his achievements. He was killed in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius before its publication. So, out before his time. Okay, how sad. Then we got 960 to 1279 AD. These great these 4 great books of song. These are done by, this is how we would say, like the first true crowdsourced encyclopedia. It was a product of insights from hundreds of Chinese scholars, commissioned by the Song Dynasty. I think that's why they're called great books of song. Today, it's notable for its poetry of its book's titles. So you guys as readers could enjoy the book of The Finest Blossoms in the Garden of Literature or The Prime Tortoise of the Record Bureau. I think those are, I mean, why are we not still calling encyclopedias these names? I think that's beautiful. And then we move on to 1503 AD, the Margarita Philosophica by Gregor Reich. Unfortunately for us as bartenders and drinks aficionados, this German encyclopedia isn't the first known compendium of margaritas. It's broadly translated as the Philosophical Pearl. It's notable for being the first truly mass market encyclopedia, taking advantage of the recent invention of the printing presses. And then in 1768 AD, we have Encyclopedia by Britannica. This is again by various. It's probably the most famous physical encyclopedia of the world. Encyclopedia Britannica remained in print up until 2010. So that's a long run, hey? 1568 AD to 2010. It's just incredible. Its final edition was one of the longest written books, spanning over 32,000 pages. Sure, you could take out a small house with one of those books, probably. And then in 2001 AD, a little bit more recent, we've got the Wikipedia. Okay, so this is the most go-to encyclopedia for modern day Earth. It currently boasts over 59 million articles and across 328 languages, and it's growing all the time. A new article is written every 15 seconds. So we've been now going for 36 minutes. So you can only, I can't do maths now. You can only imagine how many entries have gone up during this time. Okay, it's you might not know it is the only encyclopedia in history to have a theme song. It's called Hotel Wikipedia and sung to the tune of the Eagles' Hotel California. So if you want to take a quick body break, you can quickly go download that song and have a little dance to it, and then you can carry on as well. All right, so PATRÓN's Mexican Ingredients Encyclopedia contains 150 detailed categorized entries. These all contain tasting notes, provenance, recipe, inspiration. So if you want a little bit of a inspiration in that, and then some fun facts and a little local color from our expert contributors. We're going to be launching it this year during the PATRÓN Perfectionist Global Final, and we're going to make it available for everybody. So at least everyone gets a little taste of the encyclopedia. And the whole idea is that it's the plan for it really is that it's going to live on forever and it'll be your go-to resource for whenever you want to make cocktails or whenever you enter into cocktail competitions as well. Okay, so that's a really cool thing to look forward to. So we have asked Roberto and Anna for their essential entries and the ingredients that they think that you truly could not do without. So let's have a little look and see what those are. So so this is what they said. So Anna chose the corn for Mexico, and this is the reason why she chose the tortilla as her essential ingredient. Anna has this to say about it. For me, everything comes from the tortilla. My drinks, my food, everything. Okay, just the simple pleasure of throwing one in the comal, a small iron griddle pan, and lightly burning it, the aroma is pure magic. It's no secret that our country has a strong attachment to corn. In fact, we use an expression, we are corn kernels from the same cob, we come from the same root, from the same road. We imagine ourselves each to be little kernels of corn clinging to the big cob of Mexico. And then, this is, as you can see, is her slide. So she has used the tortilla as her entry, so this is what it could look like. And then this is her ingredient. All right. So unleavened bread. So let's actually go back here quickly. So unleavened flatbreads traditionally prepared from ground corn masa, though more commonly made with wheat flour in northern states and occasionally with cactus corn. They are a foundational ingredient in the cuisine of Mexico. Okay, these are, there's evidence that suggests that they've been a staple part of the Mesoamerican diet since at least 500 BC. Okay, much of the tortilla's flavor comes from a processing of corn called nixtamalization. Yeah, big word, sorry. Corn husks are soaked in an alkaline solution, making it easier to grind, and this is thus improving its taste and nutrient content and allowing it to form like a dough into a dough once the water is added. When prepared from corn masa, raw tortillas display a dusty sweetness. Their quality of flavor is very dependent on the variety and the freshness of the corn. They are really delicious. And then when gently toasted in a comal, again, that little pan with the little griddles, the tortillas release like a woody perfume, which is also very incredible. So yeah, there will be more information and recipes such as this in the ingredient encyclopedia. So as you can see here, we have another cocktail recipe called the Jalisco Mule. This is another one of the ambitions for the Mexican Ingredients Encyclopedia. It's to provide some inspiration on how you can use the ingredients when making a cocktail, right? So Anna has got an incredible share that she wants to use because she's got an ingenious use for corn. We'll use the tortilla and some other surprising ingredients when it comes to the cocktails, and also for her surprising entry into the encyclopedia, it would be chapulines. Okay, so you grind half a freshly toasted tortilla in a molcajete with a pinch of salt and some chapulines, and then has created a flavorful powder with which to rim a mule milk. After shaking Patron silver with the other half of the tortilla and fresh lime juice, she strains it over ice, topping it with ginger beer and lemonade for an overall flavor Anna describes as earthy, spicy, and smoky. Not so much a drink as an experience. And do you guys know what chapulines are? They're little grasshoppers. I'm assuming that you guys noticed that on the image. So you can also then read all about them in the Mexican Ingredient Encyclopedia. So here's our recipe. So 2 ounces of Patron Silver tequila, half an ounce of lime juice, 2 ounces chilled ginger beer, 4 ounces chilled lemonade, tortilla, chapulines, and salt. Those are all of her ingredients that she used in that cocktail. And then for the other option, it's 60 mils, 15, 60, 120. And yeah, you can make those if you want to write them down. And for the first entry from Roberto, he chose black sapote. It's an extraordinary relative of the persimmon. It is a very sugar-rich, blessed, creamy flesh, indulgent flavored ingredient. So it's kind of comparable to like things like caramel, a little bit of nougat because I like that texture as well. So Roberto has actually got some really nice memories about this fruit. He says that for me, the sapote is one of the flavors of my childhood. While I'm from Guadalajara, I spent some of my time growing up in the state of Michoacan. There's a town there called Pátzcuaro where they sell an amazing sorbet made from sapote. It's so famous, people travel from miles around just to taste it. His mum loved it, so we'd eat it every time we visited. So besides the incredible flavor, I love the memories of my family, my town, my roots. That all comes from the very taste of sapote. The color is also really impressive. A dark, almost black color. Usually when fruit is black, it means it's gone bad. But this is when you know your sapote is perfect. You'd be amazed at how crazy people are for the sapote ingredient. So now that we've got a nice little family memory to think about when we think about the persimmon or the black sapote, let's have a little look at what it says in the abridged edition of the Patron Mexican encyclopedia entry. Okay, this relative of the persimmon looks similar to an unripe tomato while growing, its stiff skin displaying an almost neon green hue. The flesh's texture is truly remarkable, close to avocado or mango, but unique in its own right. It's often compared to like mousse or lightly whipped cream. Though frequently grown in similar climates, black sapote is not related to either white sapote or Mami sapote. So that's quite nice for the differentiation. So if you ever thought that it was the same thing, it's not, apparently. Okay. Rich, heady, and indulgent to taste. You'd be forgiven for doubting black sapote was a fruit. Notes of caramel, nougat, vanilla custard, sauternes, wine, and maple syrup are the go-to forefront flavors, while a background note of starchy earthiness is slightly reminiscent of beetroot or sweet potato. Its common comparisons to chocolate pudding make sense texturally, but no chocolate notes are present in the black sapote's flavor. Roberto has also given us a really nice recipe as well, which is all inspired by his trips to Pesquero. A satisfyingly simple serve where the sweet caramel and subtle nougat tones of black sapote marry perfectly with the rich, spicy oak notes of Patrón Añejo. So we've got 1.5 ounces of Patrón Añejo tequila, black sapote puree, orange juice, Pedro Ximénez sherry, and agave syrup. So we blend it all together in with a scoop of crushed ice, and we blend it till smooth, and then garnish with a pinch of cinnamon. Yeah, sounds delicious. Oh yes, and then just another option for you guys here. You can have the 45 mils as well if you want that option. Okay, so while there is, I've shared all of this excitingness about some Mexican ingredients. You obviously, some of you might not be able to to have these ingredients readily available to you until you've obviously gone to Mexico yourself. But that is why we're also encouraging this year for not just this year, but every year really, for you guys to have a local Patrón encyclopedia or ingredient encyclopedia. And the idea is that we want to, it's like an initiative. The idea is here, it's a collection of ingredient encyclopedias from regions around the world compiled by Patrón perfectionist bartenders. This is to celebrate the unique and fascinating produce that's local to you. And then that way you can really highlight your favorite ingredient. You don't probably have a field of black sapote in your back garden, but you might have at least one ingredient that's really exceptional to you. Like for us, for instance, we have really amazing little nachos. We also have, in Africa, we've got the marula fruit, and we've got really amazing botanicals as well from the mountains. So, that is indigenous to our land as well. So, hopefully South Africans will be able to also add, we'll get to add some in quite quickly so you guys can read up about that. Okay. So, for example, you'd be amazed at how, some people in America go crazy for pumpkins. I mean, it's like a signaling a time of the year, which is autumn, and it feels like during that time everyone is eating pumpkins, whether it be in a latte, whether it be in a pie, whether it be in a cake, even in a soup. So Roberto says that in his bartending days, this meant throwing because he was based in Boston, so he used to throw a pumpkin spice margarita onto the menu. He just, he wasn't above it. So he was like, why not? Land around Boston is very expensive. So he was quite surprised to see so much of the land given to cultivation of apples. And he says that trying them, obviously it makes sense because they grow very flavorful and they have very unusual varieties of apples in Massachusetts as well. So like we're saying here, look locally for an ingredient to prepare and preserve. In mastering the elements, you'll probably look at different things that you see around your home and around your garden completely differently as well. So for Roberto, his iconic entry into the encyclopedia is definitely going to, as like his local ingredient. He said to him that his mind was already made up because it had to be cranberries. Okay, he says they might seem common, but cranberries are Massachusetts for him. Apparently, our crop, which is the Massachusetts crop, accounts for 1/3 of the total global harvest. To me, that's wild. Okay. Plus, he needs something red because he's a Red Sox fan as well. So, of course, whatever ingredient you choose, it helps if there's a rational or personal connection to back it up. So when you choose your ingredient, as long as it has a nice, cute story for you or a nice cherishing moment in your memory bank. All right. So the fruit, this is the entry, the fruit of evergreen shrubs that grow naturally in bogs and wetlands. Cranberries are close relatives of bilberries, huckleberries, and blueberries. Now, majority cultivated, commercial cranberry growth occurs on vast sand-lined beds that can be flooded and irrigated as production demands. When raw, intensely tannic and sour, making it very difficult to enjoy these. Much more satisfying when dried. Cranberries, residual sugar concentrates into the fruit's skin. All right, offsetting any sourness and dryness that you can taste when it's raw. They offer notes of stone fruit and white tea, along with a little bit of a floral top note that is common to many dried red berries. As with the Mexican ingredients section, we'll be providing some expert insights, food pairing suggestions, and cocktail inspiration in the local sections of the ingredient encyclopedia. So here we got a really beautiful cocktail that Roberto has made for us. Okay, it's he did this during his globetrotting grand tour that led him to New England. He says that the PATRÓN Silver is accented perfectly by sour, fruity, unaged balsamic from Italy, and 2 ingredients that reference the comforting German desert Bratapfel. Local apple brandy, which is local apple brandy and vanilla. Sorry, I should have led with that first. It's like a flash infusion of perfumed Spanish almond blossoms into Bostonian cranberry juice. These completely complete the Roberto's journey, practically like a journey in a glass. And if you're curious about the technique used to capture the unique flavor of almond blossom in this cocktail, you'll also find out how to do this in Mastering the Elements. Da, da, da. This is how we lure you into watching all 3. Because you need that information, trust me. I've gone through that stuff, and being a bartender for 12 years, I've also learned some amazing things from that as well. Okay. All right. Let's have a little look-see. So you obviously add it all to a highball glass and over-cubed ice. This drink sounds delicious. Definitely want to try it. All right. Let's dwell for a moment on how to find ingredients, okay? So, though that comment, let me move my face out of the way so you can see the picture properly. All right. So, as Roberto was saying, you know how apples, there's a large orchards in Massachusetts, and they are readily available everywhere. You got to kind of notice how easy it is to discover new ingredients just by doing a little bit of Googling. All right. So he went and checked out the apples because he was like, well, if land around Boston's so expensive, then it must be, these apples must be worth checking out. Okay. It must be taste delicious. And obviously that's when he found out that they were. And he obviously realize that's what he's saying now, is that this is how you're going to find iconic ingredients in your back garden and from your region. Okay, just go have a little look, just go local ingredient of, if you're new to an area perhaps. So some of you have obviously heard about foraging for ingredients before. If you've ever gone out into the woods and picked something to try, like pine cones or pine needles, if you're living in a place that has pine cones or pine needles. Or even if you're living somewhere like, I don't know, let's say like Italy, then you probably have some beautiful lavender growing in your back garden, so that kind of a thing, okay? So if you've been lucky enough to grow foraging for yourselves, then I'm very impressed. I would probably be too scared to try anything that I pick off the ground, out of nature. So it's really amazing. So you can go out, you can go and getting out. The great thing about this is obviously getting you into nature. If you have a little like rucksack, you can go and have a little look and see what's going on out there. So you've got 3 different styles. You've got your traditional foraging. Sure, say that 10 times fast. Traditional foraging, where you go out into nature and you go and look for things. Alternatively, you can go to like a farmer's market, and you can go and like look there. Or you can go virtual foraging, where you can go Google and find different styles. All right. So the idea here is that you want to start small, okay? It's a style of foraging. Let's try and pick a style of foraging that you want to do first, okay? So traditional foraging. This is a style of foraging you might already have experienced if you've gone out into nature by yourself. But to get the most out of it, we're going to just give you some recommendations. Again, I'm just going to move my face out of the way so that you guys can see. So the ideal here is that you want to start small, okay? When you go on your first trip foraging, don't go and pick everything, and then you don't know what to do with it. You might not even need to go and leave your city really to go out into the wild. You could probably look in your back garden, okay? Or so as they were saying, like most large cities have online wild food communities that can point you into the right direction for the best local spots, okay? So I know, like for instance, here in South Africa, I would contact one of the local bartenders who does love foraging already, and I would ask him to maybe take me on a little bit of a hike, maybe go and ask nature hikers, and then also just be careful that you're in an environment that you kind of know where you are. So like I say, so start small, choose what you want to do, so like, but also don't go on a 10-hour journey to get somewhere. Maybe go 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then you can go and start small, then find yourself like a friend or an expert who does do this stuff already, and then don't eat anything that you don't know what it is. Please, I beg of you. I would hate for any of you to get sick or to poison yourselves, or worse yet, just taste something that really doesn't taste great at all. Oh, no, imagine that. Go out there and it tastes like Bertie Bott's every flavored beans, you know, from Harry Potter. And then if you want to, you can also try and download a foraging app. Okay, there's like a whole range of foraging apps out there that you can have a look at. So the one of them that we recommend is iNaturalist. It's a great starting point and a connection for global foraging communities. So if you want to touch base with anybody around the world. And then there's another one called Plant Snap. It's a plant photo ID feature. So this is great if you want to know what something is. So if you find something and you're like, oh, this looks cool, then you can just Plant Snap. And then Noma chef Rene Redzepi even has his own app called Wildmud, dedicated to the cookery of foraged products, okay, and produce. So let's have a little bit more of some other traditional foraging. So what you can also do is have a little look at some different types of books. If you want to go and, you know, read up about it. So The Drunken Botanist by Amy Stewart. It's a great guide for foraging and cocktails and how they intersect. And then The Edible City. It's by John Renston. This shows not only a countryside pursuit in like foraging, and then the River Cottage Handbooks adds forensic detail and delicious recipes to the tales of British and European wild food. So you've really got 3. I mean, I definitely would recommend having these 3 books in your bookshelf. I'm desperately trying to source a book of The Drunken Botanist. Every time I try and order it, it always seems to be out of stock. My heart is broken. Yeah, those are recommendations for further reading if you want to just take it a little bit further. Sorry. Excuse me. So, as you can see, we've also got trend foraging. This is quite nice because you can kind of go to farmers markets and then you can, so you can kind of get like seasonal fruit, because seasonal fruits are definitely more robust in their flavor profiles. So take a chance, go and head out there and go and find out if you can, you know, make friends with a new farmer as well, because maybe, who knows, he might have a farm that you can go and also adventure around and look at and see what he's got going on inside of his estate. Okay. So something I must also just say about foraging is that it's kind of more of like an attitude. It's not something that you can just be like, oh, I'm just going to forage. You kind of really got to be like conscious and gung-ho about it. It's something that you got to kind of like, you know, be into. As I was saying earlier about tuning into seasonality, not just because of the robustness, but, you know, maybe even find yourself a restaurant in your local area that changes their recipes or their meals depending on what they can find. I mean, sometimes they do it daily, sometimes they do it weekly, sometimes they do it monthly or just quarterly. So maybe even try and, you know, take a picture, follow them on Instagram, maybe take a picture of their menu if you walk by them, or if you're on the website or on the menu, just try and have a little look. I mean, even maybe if you wanted to, you could go and try and make friends with them, the chef, and then you can learn about cuisines and stuff. And then definitely take a chance. Like, as we were saying as well, you know, by going to farmers markets and, you know, making friends with people, sometimes you might see something that you've never seen before. So Anna suggests that always buy like 3 helpings. I think that that's a good way to do it. 1, just to taste it, see what it tastes like. 1, then to test a cook, to cook something with it, or for bartenders in mind, maybe to make 1 bad drink with it, and then the next one is to make 1 good drink with it. As you'll see in Lister and Mastering the Elements, you'll be able to kind of figure out ways of really harnessing the flavor of those ingredients as you go along. So definitely do that. And then, like I was saying again, if you make friends with a farmer at a farmer's market, maybe you could even head to the farm, you know. There's often sometimes even some places that do activities where you can go and like get your bar together as like a little fun day out and go and adventure. So yeah, sometimes you don't know how special an ingredient is until you get someone who's actually grown it and understands its life cycle to really make you fall in love with the product. Okay, and then virtual foraging. This is obviously the most time efficient because you can do it at nighttime when you come home from work, and you can follow some really cool bartenders, like very idea generous ones. Some of the drinks industry has got leading influencers, and they've realized the popularity of behind the scenes. So it's quite interesting to see like behind the scenes ingredient prep for like an ingredient or a cocktail. So that's definitely something that could give you some insight. Then you can also look at those kind of bartenders would be like Monica Berg, Remy Savage, Julia Momose, Matt Wiley, and Luke Werty. He used to have a bar here in Cape Town, South Africa, called Outrage of Modesty. I still daydream about this drink. I must tell you about it quickly. It was like both hot and cold at the same time. Okay, and I still dream about this. And it tasted to me like a box of what is those? Like caramel flavored cookies, like boxes of like biscuits. Okay, it was so delicious. I cannot explain to you how the flavor of a warm foam and a cool drink underneath in 1 glass, just blew my mind. So definitely follow Luke Werty. I definitely would suggest those guys as well. So Monica Berg, Remy Savage, Julia Momose, Matt Wiley, and Luke Werty. Okay. Then for flavor pairing, the best way sometimes to discover a new ingredient is to be stuck with another ingredient that also needs pairing, okay? So Nikki Signet's book, The Flavor Thesaurus, is rightly cited as a brilliant starting point. We thoroughly recommend foodpairing.com. So that's what we mean by virtual foraging. So foodpairing.com, it's a scientific approach and massive global ingredient catalog that makes it a perfect place for unexpected pairings. I mean, when last did you eat peanut butter with cheese? I like it. Go try it. I don't know, it's not wild, but it's definitely interesting. Put on a pancake even. Oh, yummy. Sorry. Then mystery boxes. Many large cities now offer affordable online subscription services for mystery boxes. So like sometimes you get like chef boxes and stuff for different foods. They are like weird shaped. Sometimes you can also get like weird shaped fruit, also like short shelf life vegetables and fruits and herbs. And then sometimes that's what they give you, is like they give you the stuff so that you can go and play with it. And yeah, so the idea that there would be to maybe order one and then bring it to your bar and then like test it up, like spice up a quiet shift. If you got like one slow night of the week, maybe that's the night that you order the box for. And then you can kind of like challenge each other into a little bit of a mystery box challenge, which I think is very good for practice, Always do a good mystery box challenge. And then we've got also foraging on social media. So obviously we end up back where it all started. In a development that nobody could have foreseen, the new home of wild food is social media videos. Okay, with foraging hashtags spiraling into millions of views, you're just not going to be alone in having a little look through that. And yeah, you get to do this all from the comfort of your home, maybe even after like work, or while you're drinking your coffee in the morning, getting ready for your shift. You can maybe listen to some, bloggers and all that kind of stuff as well. Okay. So the local ingredient template, I think contact your local ambassador for the link. I know that the QR code can also work. But if it doesn't for some obscene reason, here it is. If you want to just go and have a little look through that, and then you can put your local ingredient on there. But if it doesn't work, just contact your local brand ambassador. And if you don't know who your local brand ambassador is, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Instagram as Bacardi_rocks, ROX, and then underscore again. And I will gladly send you the link as well. So feel free to do that. And then just before I say goodbye to you guys, I just want you to take away three pillars here, okay? So the 3 takeaways that I want you to hope that you've achieved out of this. And if I didn't make anything clear, again, just pop me a message, or your local brand ambassador. I'm sure they'll be able to assist you. So the 3 things are that, number 1, we hope that you've learned a little bit of Mexico's incredible diversity of ingredients and like their rich culture, and how they are culinary masterminds. And then number 2, I hope that you're going to start looking for like local ingredients to create some really weird and wonderful things, especially after watching Mastering the Elements and even Listo, because maybe you don't want to put it in the drink, but maybe you want to put it on the drink because it looks interesting. So yeah. And then third, so just I hope you're as excited as I was when I heard about the Mexican Ingredients Encyclopedia and also the local one. Obviously we've been creating it at PATRÓN, so we want you guys to really enjoy using it as well. Okay. And then yeah, guys, I hope that you have entered into PATRÓN Perfectionists. I hope that you're going to be using these portals for not just PATRÓN Perfectionists, but for everything else that we've got going on. You can see this girl here with the blonde hair on the left-hand side. She's from South Africa. So so I'm very proud of her as well, and I can't wait to see all of your incredible creations. So thank you so much for letting me jibber jabber in your ears. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us at PATRÓN, Bacardi. So if you don't know who you need to speak to, just call us. We'll be there for you. All right. Thank you so much. Have a goodie.